All right, so good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our hybrid meeting. Today's May 18th, 2022. And
I do need to get the pokies down today, though, before you go.
You guys need to mute yourself because I'm recording you.
Okay.
I think that might have been Veronica. Anyway, so I'm going to do my meeting a little bit out of order. I normally don't start with our speaker, but I know Darren has a really busy schedule. So I'm gonna turn the time over to Darren, who hopefully none of you have had to talk to him personally. But if you have, I'm sure he has calmed your fears about any legal matters that we've had. He is our general counsel for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services in all 3 states. And we are just happy to have you here. So welcome, Darren. What are we talking about today?
Morning. I'd like to talk about the 4 things, and I'll tell you them all in case I lose track and somebody can tell me that I didn't bring up one of them. But the letters that we're getting from buyers, a rental update of just things that I'm seeing in the valley there around you guys, hearing about fire disclosure, and then just a general discussion of the EMD disputes that I just like to share things that happen so that we can all learn from them. So the first one is, and this is so great because when I send out a notice to Shannon, I get to say, welcome, my meeting will be about the summer of love. Isn't that great? But it's really summer of dash love letters, right? Because it's almost summer. I bring this up because in your neighbor to the north, about 500 miles, Oregon, they passed a statute which California does not have, that said love letters are a no-no. So that they codified it into their statute. We don't have that in California. But what happened in Oregon, and I sent this, I don't want to print all this to waste paper, but Shannon can forward to you my notes anytime. And it's just a bunch of discombobulated, it's not super organized, but I try to take cut and paste it so that if you did glance at it, you're not going to waste a bunch of your time, especially when we get into the fire discussion. So in Portland, Oregon, they had the federal court throw out the statute and said that that's not something you can do. That ban is it's a First Amendment right to write a letter. So we know the underlying core problem, similar to the issue we have nationally with our NAR, is discrimination. It's always at the forefront of our industry that we're trying to do our best to not discriminate. And that goes back decades, right? And that's where we all deal with clear policy, where we have to put it in the MLS within X number of hours, et cetera. So that's just something to share with you guys, that our sister state up north said that the ban on love letters is a no-no. So I don't know if they don't, I think they like love, maybe they chose love, choose love, that kind of thing. I think they did that. I think the federal court in Portland chose love. I mean, like that could be a t-shirt, you know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yep.
If you guys need a side hustle, right? So what we've got, I'll tell you what we've got in California is we have no rules. We have a guide, which again, I don't like to send out 50 of these because we waste paper, but you guys have access to this. I forwarded it to Shannon. If you just typed in car quick guide love letter, it pops up. And really the key to any of this stuff is, and if you can put this down on everything to do with real estate, and it's consistency. You can do so many things. You just have to be consistent. It's the same in employment law, right? I mean, if you treat one person one way, you got to treat them the same. If somebody comes into your office and you offer them cookies and bottles of water, you need to do that to every single person that comes through the door. So on the love letters, if you look at the wonderfully written guide from California, it doesn't say they're banned. It just says they personally don't think they're a good idea because, you're getting close to, when they talk about what is unconscious or implicit bias, right? That's the never-ending dilemma that we have in trying to do our best to not discriminate. And so if you send, I don't know if you guys saw the Saturday Night Live skit over the holiday period, it was pretty funny. They did a spoof on who sends holiday cards out. And they made fun of every single family. So they had the couple who has a dog only, and then they had the couple with 9 kids, all matching outfits on. And they made comments on that. And they were, you know, because every single card in the Saturday Night Live skit was a certain type of family. And so obviously CAR is trying to warn us that if we send out a letter or you get letters, then, you know, is there going to be an implicit bias when you see the visual of that body of human, right? And is it going to be a family? Is it going to be one person? Is it going to be somebody with on a Harley Davidson with tattoos, right? So anyway, and they just try to encourage us to say, you know, don't do them. But if you're going to do them, you got to do them with everybody. So if your client says, I want to see this one and not this one, that's a no-no. What we want to have is consistency. And so if the seller says, I just had this conversation with someone, our agent was frustrated with their seller for not wanting to counter offers. And, you know, he got upset and called his friend. And when I say friend, I mean lawyer. And then that friend called me and I said, you know, what's going on? And he's like, if somebody doesn't give me full price, I don't want to deal with it. It's like, that's your prerogative. And then he also said, I don't want any of these love letters. He didn't say love letter, but he said, don't send me any of them. Don't send them to me and ask me if I want. I said, okay, well, that's a good conversation. We need to have that now. Tell us that there are no letters to be presented to you. And we can share that in agent to agent comments, which is exactly what's written here, right? So
Right.
you gotta love.
In the MLS.
Yeah, and they describe, you know, they give an example of what you could say even. So anyway, a lot of times, I'd say about 60–70% of the time what I do, I bring something up where there's no answers, right? And thank God, otherwise lawyers wouldn't get to drive Porsches all the time. We'd have to drive like Hyundais, you know what I mean? When there's no answer, a Porsche payment gets paid. That's the way it goes, you know, which is good because there's a lot of Porsches are expensive, you know.
What do you drive?
Hyundai. I can't make the joke here, but I'll tell you after the call sometime the joke that one of your managers made to me about the car that I purchased, and he or she correctly named the car that I purchased without knowing the answer because he has labeled me, right? It was pretty funny. I'll tell you off air, right? Okay, so that's that. And I sent Shannon that Associated Press article if you want to see it. The next one is just an update on just a you know, we don't do a lot of property management. But it's always nice to know what's going on in the Valley because you are going to have clients that are either, you know, have a rental and they want to get rid of it, etc. So, you know, in the big picture, not during COVID, prior to COVID, we passed legislation in California. And for the most part, it talks about certain landlords are not going to be able to terminate a lease unless there are take that rental out of the rental pool. So in your sister states around you, if a lease expires, then the landlord doesn't have any obligation to renew the lease. That is not correct in California, but it only applies to certain persons. It only applies if you are, you know, let's keep it simple. If you're not a corporation, basically, if you're not a big company, then this rule doesn't apply to you. But it gets questionable because your client has 5 rentals and they have everything in an LLC, whatever. So I'll just give you the overview and I'll tell you what's the chit chat, you know, as when the FBI follows, you know, the squawk on the dark web to see who's going to be sabotaging the next Super Bowl game or something like that, right? Who's going to throw the, you know, whatever it is the feds worry about, right? And so I just share with you, it's very interesting because I'm on the Southern California and Orange County and Central California and the lawyers that deal with landlord-tenant law. And this has been quite the harangue. I mean, you've got these tenants who don't renew their lease And then they say, well, you can't get rid of me because you're not selling and you're not moving it out of the rental pool. And so what's come as these things, as they what's the word? They what does wine do? It ferments or whatever, you know, as these things grow and evolve. So what we're seeing is that landlords are sedating within the standard of the statute. What they believe is that if I present you with a renewal and you don't sign it, then that gives me the power to terminate the lease. So the lease has expired and the tenant says, well, I'm on a month-to-month forever and you can't get rid of me because of the statute and the protection, and you are a corporation or whatever that owns too many houses, so you're going to fall under the jurisdiction of this law. So let's just keep it simple, because sometimes there's a fine line. Your client owns too many houses and he believes himself to be a mom and pop shop and he's not. Keep it simple. You fall under the jurisdiction of the law. What Orange County courts recently have been doing is saying that they agree that if the tenant didn't sign a renewal lease, which is within the parameters of how much they can expand the rental cost, et cetera, that's a violation. Therefore, they are no longer, that is basically gives the landlord an open door to be able to terminate and look for a new tenant. And they're serving a no-fault 30-day or 60-day, depending on the tenant. So I just share that with you because it's interesting how those laws get written. That one came into play, I think, in January of 2019. And, you know, this is how long it takes to make it through the system. So that's, you know, it's like when they changed the, California has a wonderful way of allowing a joint tenancy, a quasi joint tenancy to be created, wherein you can state on your deed that I want this person to get my house when I die. And that person has no control over your house, but you can avoid probate. I mean, you can only give it to one. And you know, for example, that's a great thing in real estate. I went over that a couple of meetings ago. That doesn't affect us on a day-to-day basis in buying and selling. It's just something that it's nice to know. So I share that on the rental stuff because that's what's happening with that January 19 law is the tenant who says, I'm going to sit here without obligation. So I don't have a 12-month lease or a 2-year lease, whatever I signed first. I'm going to play the market. I'm going to sit here on a month-to-month basis. And if something better comes up, I'm going to serve you. And I'm going to leave and go to another place. And that would leave you, you know, potentially, I mean, in this market, I'm sure the landlord can get it re-rented, but I just share with you because that's how that law has been evolving. So let's talk about something.
It is in the landlord's rights though, to increase the rent when when it goes up. And so now kick them out. That's what you're saying, correct. Right? So
you can do the renewal and you can hit the threshold of how much you can raise the rent by. And then if the tenant doesn't sign that, now, first of all, usually the landlord just wants to lock it in because they would like to have a lease. And sometimes they're selling. So they're like, look, I have a 12-month lease in place, et cetera, et cetera. You see that more in commercial. But yeah, anyways, that's just the little wrinkle there that's happening in the eviction courts, right? So then we move to fire, right?
Can I ask?
Hold on, we got one question on that.
Yes.
Clarification.
I don't know if you could hear her.
Is that when you have a lease like that and it's like a 1-year lease and it expires and you want your tenant to move out, we cannot just say your lease is up and you need to move on. That's
unless you fall under the jurisdiction of the law. So you have to be, you know, if you own one rental, you're a human being, or it's an LLC and it's just you and your spouse or, you know, 2 friends, you do not fall under the jurisdiction of that law. And yes, when the lease expires, you are in control. But if you fall under the jurisdiction of the law, you cannot get rid of that tenant as long as you're not taking it out of the rental pool.
Got it. Okay, so more like a corporation or
corporation.
more multiple units, not just a couple.
4 or 5 units, it's okay.
Correct, as long as you're truly just owning them. And I'll send you, I thought I wrote it down, the exact terminology of the statute, but I don't know.
I will send out to everybody in my follow-up email, all your stuff that you sent me.
And so it's AB 1482. It can even be owned by an LLC as long as no member of the LLC is a corporation. So you
Okay.
can screw, that's why I say I don't want to get into that, because that's again why portion payments get made, because it's like, wait a minute, we have a mom and pop corporation. Me and my, your spouse have one, but one of the owners is a corporation that your spouse owns. Well, you might have just put yourself underneath the jurisdiction of this law accidentally, because your estate planning, for example, has your membership of your LLC owned by a corporation, which is owned by your trust.
Oh my
Super
God.
common, super common. You follow me? Because if you do estate planning, you always want to be able to buy, sell, do whatever you want. And if you go down in an airplane, everything, as long as you keep to that structure, you always buy and always make your shareholder this corporation, which is owned by your trust. It doesn't matter that you open and close 7 LLCs in 12 months, because you always did it the same way. Who's the sole member of the LLC? Darren Welsh Corporation. Who's the owner of Darren Welsh Corporation? Darren Welsh Trust. So you do, an estate planner will tell you to do that over and over and over and over, but you may have just created jurisdiction for yourself underneath the statute, right? Which, I mean, as a member of the Bar Association, I am not completely against making work for attorneys. So I am slightly biased. And you
Okay.
gotta love it. I mean, here's the statute. It's, it's as clear as mud as to who qualifies. Sort of. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, you just own a couple of houses. And then, okay, I'll give you one more. That if you are a mom and pop, it's one of the things that the tenants are grabbing onto is saying, we were confused as to whether or not we were under this law. Therefore, we assume it is, we're under the law. And the court can throw out the eviction and make you start over after you first have warned them. So another chatter within the OC, Orange County Bar Association, is people are plugging this into their lease. And I sent this to Shannon. This property is not subject to the rent limits imposed by section 1947 of blah, blah, blah. This property meets the requirements of blah, blah, blah. And the owner is not any of the following: a real estate investment as defined by 856, a corporation, or a limited liability. So that's what mom and pops are plugging into their leases to make sure. Now, it's not going to be a huge delay, but basically you're just going to waste the time and energy if you were trying to move to evict someone properly on unlawful detainer, because it's a natural expiration of the lease. And then, okay, so then you have to go through 60 more days of refiling and everything. And Shannon has that.
Gotcha. So they can
Then
claim
we'll-
stupidity and extend their lease a couple more months.
The court says, you know what, I see what they mean. And so no big deal. Here's what we'll do. We'll just dismiss this without prejudice. I just need you to refile your eviction and send them a note that, now we understand that you're not under this law, et cetera. Well, 75 days later, right? That's what happens.
Right.
So, moving on to a very important.
We can still terminate that lease, right?
Yeah, I mean, like a normal termination.
They're violating
Yeah.
the terms of the lease.
Did you hear that, Darren?
So when it naturally expires, then you can serve basically unlawful, meaning no fault. It's
Well,
just
we're
natural.
talking about if they violated their lease altogether.
No, that's different. If there is a material breach of the lease, that's completely different. Non-payment of rent,
Okay.
right? Running, noise violations, and you serve them with the notice and let's start over. Like, who should be in charge of the eviction? You want the best money ever spent? You hire an eviction company, right? You don't need an attorney necessarily, but you do want to hire an eviction company. So yeah, if you've got a tenant who's clearly violating the lease, right? They have 19 roommates. They're selling cars out of the driveway. They're throwing rave parties within the property. They've turned it into an Airbnb in violation of the CC&Rs of the local, whatever, piece of cake. Or non-payment of rent is the easiest. You're not going to be able to come in and say, you can't get rid of me. So a material breach of the lease is easy. This is when you've got basically the landlord's got this unruly tenant that they don't want to deal with anymore. And, they're saying that, and the tenant says, I'm not even going to sign a new lease. That's what it all started with, right?
Right.
Okay, on to fire. So nothing's changed. We have the fire home hardening fire form, right? And so nothing's new. We're just going to reiterate what's going on. It's basically, at this time, that form is basically worthless. Okay. So what I'm getting is I'm getting calls and they're saying, hey, I just got a call from the buyer. And it says there's an ordinance that states that, the seller has to do this. And I say, it's not correct. They're sort of correct. So what they're saying, the buyer says, there's a rule that says that you have to, and this is like, if anybody reads this, I highlighted it in yellow, and you can basically jump from yellow to yellow and skip all this language. Because the first part of the statute does say that, I'll read it to you. A seller located in a higher or very high fire hazard area shall, and then do these things. If there's been an ordinance enacted in the local area, they have to get that information and comply with it. If there has not enacted, then you have to do this as the seller, right? Seems simple. Then you go to the second part of the statute and it says, hey, if the part above didn't happen, you must do this now. Then it says, what if the seller has not obtained the documentation? Then what? Well, the seller and the buyer shall enter into a written agreement where the buyer takes full responsibility.
Right.
That's what it says. So it's just crazy how severe it is in the beginning, and then the code in the second half, and the form's exactly the same. So there's the statute, and then you take the form and you go down to, of course, we have the beginning part, which is a little bizarre, of the home hardening form, because it says the seller is supposed to answer A, B, C, D, F, which is tough because most people are not going to know if you're aware of the following features. Are you aware of the eave, soffit, and roof elevation, roof coverings, combustible landscape? Those, forget about that. I don't want to get into whether or not, these, it's kind of a when do you stop beating your wife question created by the form. But moving to the second part, the dispensable space information, and it talks about that the seller shall, unless they don't have to. And all you got to do is check the part that says, so you're never going to see a seller say, hey, I'm going to take that responsibility. So basically, bottom line is this form is relatively a notice provision, right? It really isn't creating anything for a seller to do because it gives them a great get out of jail card, both in the statute and the form mimics that. Now, this will evolve. I thought this would evolve quicker when this came out in the summer of, when did we get this? 21? Or was it summer of 20?
Summer. I feel like it was last summer. It came out in July.
Last summer? Yeah. It's funny because I was doing a meeting for you guys. And I said something like $2 bill for whoever sees the first handyman truck going down the street that has a placard painted with his children's paint, and it says, I do home hardening, whatever. And I did that meeting remotely because I was camping in Northern California. And there was a billboard, a proper electric billboard that was a company that said, of course, we were in fire country because we were up in the, where they,
where the fires happen.
Marijuana land, where it was north of San Francisco. What's that county?
I don't know. I thought we were in marijuana land out here. Humboldt.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, you go to north of San Francisco and Fort Ord or whatever it's called. So beautiful, right? Everybody's got brand new cars and there's no industry at all. And you're like, what is going on here, right? Like how, I don't see any factories. I don't see any downtowns. I mean, where'd you guys buy this $85,000 F-250? Okay, well, yeah, that was funny. So I got the first $2 bill. So that's why you guys didn't get it, because I saw the ad.
I've seen one though. I've seen a truck. We have a question here. What?
So if your seller has the inspection by the fire department, does that make it worse for the seller, or is that not?
No, not really. Here's what's going to happen. So there you go. The seller has the inspection. They have knowledge. They have to share that. What's going to happen, and I don't know if you guys are experiencing this yet, but I can guarantee when you see a form like this, no matter what, this is going to happen. The buyer is going to say, well, during due diligence, I'm calling the fire department or I'm getting somebody out there who says they're certified to be able to do this. And they're going to come back and say, this house has a problem. And it's going to cost $1,200 to clean it up. And the seller is going to say, I'm not paying that cost. You can do it. Thank you for alerting yourself. You just created a modification to SBQ and the TDS indirectly. So you just created knowledge that you now know during escrow, which you cannot come after me afterwards. Buyer cancels. Now what? Well,
Now you're
there you go.
disclosing.
Now we have a problem and we have to, if we don't send that information, then we have performed a non-disclosure. And this is going, forget about the home hardening form. It can apply to anything, right? So the buyer finds a leak, the buyer finds XYZ, the buyer gets a home hardening expert out there and discovers XY. Boom. Now you have an issue. That's real estate, right? You can move all the labels and plug it back in. That's just 101, basic 101 real estate. You can put in home hardening, or you can put in, I found mold in the bathroom, or you can put in, you know, any number of things. The buyer goes in the backyard, true story. Buyer goes in the backyard and the neighbor behind him has Tourette's. And starts screaming, screaming, screaming. And that's why they canceled the escrow. What do you do? Unfortunately, we have a case on the.
Because of the noise.
It's a weird thing.
That's sad.
Right? It is sad. That's a true story. And so we had, and there is a case on the books where the seller lived next to a party house, basically. You know, one of those Seth Rogen movies, like I don't know, Bachelor Party, or what is it called? Can't remember. Anyways, that was a case on the book. There is a case on the books in California that the disclosure of a party house. Anyway, take away the complication of understanding the difficulty of home hardening and fire and if we get info, the info needs to be shared with the next buyer. That's the safest thing always. And sometimes we disagree with the information. That's one of the most difficult. Like the inspection comes across the board and they send it to us and we think the inspector's crazy. That's not a discretionary decision on our part. Best thing to do is to send it to the buyer. Number two, hey, we got this. Now you've got it. That's one of the most difficult things we deal with when somebody says something stupid about one of our properties. So there's no update. I just share with you, the home hardening form hasn't changed. It will be a hot topic. Use the pun. Moving forward. And you know, what's going to happen is certain jurisdictions that we deal with here and there, Big Bear, et cetera, are going to come up with better descriptions of what needs to be done. And as we learn that, we'll have to incorporate that into our sales. If you look at the statute and if you look at the form, it constantly talks about local ordinances can override and require a consumer to do something. Now, we have just gone through COVID, a recall of the governor. You know, there's a lot going on. So whether or not all the local jurisdictions, why haven't the local jurisdictions gotten to these types of things and pumped these out? Because they got 1,000 other things to do, is the reality. But they're coming. And as they come, we'll learn about them and we'll incorporate them into our thing. You guys just had a fire, right? I mean, it's in the LA Times right now.
Yeah, the one in Laguna.
There you go. And if you read that article that just was out in the Laguna, about the Laguna Fire, they have wonderful little cartoon drawings coming from CalBRE, and they show you how fires operate. And that is, you think you're safe and you're standing in your house, and your house is a sponge, and it sucks the ember into your attic and lights your house on fire. So you are not harmed. I mean, you could literally be standing next to your pool in your backyard and your house is engulfed in flames. And you think, how could that possibly be? You know, my neighbor's house isn't on fire because that's how fires work. And that's what we're learning, right? Talk about eaves and soffits and roof ventilation. That's what we're learning about, blocking that. And that is going to be the future, because people are going to come out and say, you have to modify your eaves to stop the embers from coming in.
Right.
And right now, Embers are not a protected class, so we are allowed to discriminate.
Okay, we have a question is explain why the NHD says inspection is necessary. And then we fill out the form for inspection. It says we don't need inspection. It's confusing to the sellers.
It's totally confusing because the statute doesn't require it. Local ordinances may, and it's completely confusing.
We don't usually have that in this area in Southern California, that many local ordinances. We've beat this document to death out here. I feel like we've had every NHD company try to explain it to us and we just kind of go around in circles. Yeah, everybody's shaking their head here. Yep. Mhm.
Riverside County.
You look at the statute, it doesn't talk about any requirements unless there's going to be, you know, and I bring it up because I've got some really well worded emails that have come from buyers agents, et cetera, you know, persons of the seemingly authority. And the manager sends it to me and says, hey, they said we have to do this. And I'm like, it's true, unless you go to the second section of the statute. And then you don't have to do it. And so, and it gets confusing, you know, right? And of course, if you're a contractor and you're making a living at this, you're gonna, you know, say things that help you get business. And they're not wrong. They're just saying, they're almost talking like the future. But right now, this is more of a notice than anything else. And those are the tough ones for us, right? I mean, there's nothing worse than a confusing, you know, direction when it gets to real estate, because then you have differences of opinion. We, in a sister state of yours, there was a thing that came out where it said, if this home's a meth lab, on the TDS, it said, is this a meth lab? Prior. Of course, you're like, yeah, it is. Until it blew up, but it was, we were making some primo stuff for a while, sure. I mean, and everybody's like, what in the hell does a meth lab mean? So we went to the police departments and said, can you give us a definition of meth lab? And they're like, no, there's no such thing. You know, we don't arrest meth labs. We go in and we find possession of meth or ingredients of meth or equipment to make meth. But mostly we take a human being out because we have another warrant for him on something else. I mean, right? It's just a big web of the way they get criminals. It's not usually as easy as, oh, there it is, he has a meth lab. So they said there's no such thing as a definition of meth lab, which made the statute incomprehensible, and it's still on the books, and it got taken off the TDS in your sister state. So there you go. You know, and this is fire. It's never going to be super clear on these fire hardenings unless, you know, I don't know what, you know, I don't know who's going to have the guts to come out with the statute that says every single homeowner in the entire valley has to have a new thing, right?
Right.
And then that'll be a cost, and then they'll be voted out of city council because everybody will get upset with them. So we just have to keep our eyes and ears open. And the most important thing is that when we get info from a prior buyer who cancels, we give it to buyer number 2.
Right. In all disclosures.
That's the name of the game. That's us helping our sellers. You know, and in this market, it doesn't matter. And if we flatline and it's harder to sell homes, that's when sellers get a little confused. I mean, during the Great Recession, I remember we had a massive new home development that issued checks, reimbursements to all the homeowners in the entire development because of flooring. And try getting a seller in 2011 to admit they got a check for $27,000 in the mail. No, they did. Everybody did. Pulte sent checks to every single, well, you had 2 choices, right? Would you like a check in the mail free, just directly dropped from heaven so you can take your children to Disneyland this summer, and instead of admitting you've lost everything and you're about to, you know, you're financially falling apart and having a nervous breakdown? Or would you like 27 grand and go to Disneyland? Or number 2, we'll come back in and redo your floors. Well, guess what everybody did?
They took the money.
That's right. Then they told the buyers, that's not a material defect. And Pulte never said the word defect. They were so careful the way they crafted those letters. They stopped a massive construction defect lawsuit because everybody in the community was like, woohoo. And of course, we got sued like 1,000,000 times because the buyers would show up and find out from a neighbor, hey, what'd you do with your floor money? What floor money? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then they'd say, and then we, of course, anyway, moving on. That's all I have except for I've got a lot of EMD disputes right now. I've got some people canceling. And, let me just take the word subject of EMD out of it and go to control. You got to control your transaction, right? I mean, when you take out a Visa and you get a contract in the mail and it's 7 font and it's 42 pages long and explains to you how that we're going to rip and tear and destroy your life if you don't make the Visa payment, there's no question that you just signed on to 48% interest, right? In real estate, we have to be in control of our deal all the time. It's okay that things go awry. It's going to happen. Buyers and sellers are going to say, I'm not doing that and I'm not releasing EMD or I'm not going to do that. But all we got to do is always make sure our buyer knows that here's what's going on. Here's the risk. Here's the risk. Your loan contingency is expiring Friday. Your brother-in-law is in Mexico. I can't get a hold of him. Cancel based on that. Write it out. What do you want to do? My brother-in-law is awesome. He's going to take care of the loan. And then when he blows the loan and we have to rely on something else or we're out of contingencies, they are like, yes, we had that conversation. That's our job, right? We always just want to give them their options and tell them what to do. So what we don't want to get between a rock and a hard place is when they say, how come? This? And so the best way we can do it is we stay in control of our deal. If the buyer isn't performing, we give them a notice to fix it, right? We tell the seller, here's what we can do. We can tell them they have to perform. And then if they don't perform, they're going to have the right to move on and we're going to move on. And then if the seller says, no, that's cool. I don't want to push them because I'm upset. It's like, okay, you're upset. But then you can point back and say, well, I told you what we can do. We're in control. We can, as a buyer, cancel today, get earnest money back. I don't want to do that. I'm a buyer and I want to write it out. Okay. But you don't know what that appraisal is going to be, blah, 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 or the brother-in-law example. And as a seller, they haven't closed yet. They're supposed to close Tuesday. Now they're telling us this. They're telling us that they're going to go get a hard money loan from some guy of Southern European, Italian, Sicilian, whatever. And he swears they're going to close by Friday. Do you want to make them perform now? Because if we give them this many days, they may just cancel and move on. I want to start all over. I don't want to show my house again and all that stuff. That's fine. Just remember, do your best to always be in control of your transaction.
I think that one thing I hear from the agents is the sellers don't want to put it out there because exactly that, like, I don't want to push it, but I always feel like it's better. Let's line it up just in case. Like, yeah, we're going to give them a notice to perform and then they'll have 2 days to perform. That doesn't mean the seller has to cancel immediately.
That's exactly right. But we just want to have that conversation. You want, unfortunately, goes to everything in life, right? When you're in the 4th grade and your girlfriend just says, I just don't find you attractive, right? We're breaking up. I'm going to go with Johnny now. And they're like, it's true. I'm just not that attractive. I had my sister call one time, and I even remember the girl's name. Her name was Biddy. What kind of a name is that? B-I-T-T-Y. And she said, I just don't find your brother attractive. And of course, I'm listening on the other line in the 70s going, now that's tough, right? It's tough. But, you got to love the honesty, right? That's what we got to do. People want facts. They want the truth. They want to know what's going on. And if it's a hard reality, if we say, hey, the buyer's on their 3rd lender, it doesn't look good. Those are facts. That's what we want to hear. Here's your options. And then people make an informed decision. What you don't want to do is ever hide bad news from them. So when I'm getting all these EMD things, I bring that up because it doesn't matter about the EMD. It's just that's the result of not being, why is the seller yelling at us? Why is the buyer yelling at us?
They usually don't remember the conversation.
And
That
we
you
want
have.
to, and so we want them to be like, oh, I know, it's not you. I'm not upset with you. You told me to do it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I should have taken the cash offer, but it was $5 less. And I wanted that money. You know what I mean? There you go. That's all I have.
Awesome.
10,
I have a
12.
question for
Yes.
you real quick. Are you seeing any challenges with the seller in possession after close of escrow? We're doing a lot of it with like no money for 29 days, no deposits.
That's a good point. Okay, no, let's talk about that. I brought that up in your manager's meeting before. I'm not seeing anything new from the owner occupied, post close, early occupancy, other than they're always terrible. They always have been, right? I mean, go back 100 years, let a seller stay in the property, it gets more complicated. Let a buyer move in early, it's more complicated. So they're never a good idea. But at the same time, they are often required. And so we just do our best. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I send an email back that goes, it's about as good as it gets. I mean, should we let the buyer move in now and move all their furniture in? No, it's a terrible idea. But this is what the deal has been structured like, and this is what the seller and buyer are agreeing to. So it is what it is. So I always say, hey, that's as good as it gets. We keep it in writing. And the concept that they don't have to pay rent and that it's no longer a contract or whatever, it doesn't fly. I just came up again in a sister state. I actually had a panel of attorneys tell me that they disagree with me. And they always put in $1 or something, but they said mostly in commercial. That's just litigation. That's just a bunch of nincompoops going into court and saying, I have another crazy argument to make, Your Honor, and that is the whole contract's void because somebody didn't put $1 of consideration in. Consideration is money, or it can be anything else. Consideration money is the easiest one to understand, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, think about all the millions of things we do in life without exchanging money. I won't cut my trees down if you'll let me park here. I had this in one of our sales recently. Literally the neighbors cut a deal and recorded it, and it said, you get to use part of my land as long as you never cut these trees down, which is bonkers, right? Because what does that mean to never cut tree down, right? Anyway, if the fact that we let somebody live in a home without paying money is okay. The consideration is it's all part of the package. I sold you, I sold you my house, and part of the sale is I get to live here for 24 hours. So it's okay. The real issue is, what happens when they don't leave? What happens when they, either one, seller or buyer? You've got a crazy situation. And I've been doing this a long time, and 99.999% of the time they do leave. Or they, it works out. It's just a gamble. You try to get as much as you can in writing, clarify it, what the deadlines are. And here, let me tell you what is really happening a lot when I see these. And the more you guys have like these big homes and people just can't move out on a flash, so they need 3 days to move. Here's the problem I'm having, and it's basic real estate. And that is, it's a train, right? So we have a bunch of train cars all connected. And so we're gonna move the close date. So the caboose, which is the money, doesn't have to be paid until the day of closing, or whatever, a couple days in advance. That's easy, right? It's an easy one. But what we do is we say, to occupy the home until May 18th, because you wrote the contract in February, right? This comes up all the time. This is the train. This is the keeping track of all your train cars on your train. And I get this where it's like, I have to move out 3 days before close of escrow because we extended escrow. And I just had one. It was so ugly. The buyer requested, needed, pleaded an extension of escrow because they couldn't get their loan in place. And we gave it to them. Then they said, oh, what are you doing? We closed escrow Monday and you got to move out May 18th, for example. It's like, no, I get 10 days from close. No, it says May 18th. Oh, that's right, because we talked about 10 days from close, and 10 days from close was May 18th. But then you guys cried on the phone and begged us for an extension, and we gave it to you, and now you're trying to hold our feet to the fire. And not only do they do that, They got a lawyer and they wrote this nasty letter that's like, you better move out by the 18th or there will be consequences. And I'm like, boy, and enjoy your life because hell's going to be a bitch. Right? I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, you guys caused all of this. And my agent's like, I don't know what to do. I totally missed it. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Move out by the 18th or don't. And the buyer isn't, welcome to the land of eviction. You're never going to get rid of this guy in time. They hustled and moved out in time. But can you believe that? So that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing. We're seeing a lot of extensions and we're forgetting the part of the choo-choo train that needs to be, that got decoupled. That's a train term. And then, it's just one of the many zillions of things we get to keep track of as real estate agents.
Yeah, we had a seller try to hold the house ransom, if you remember that, when I had to call you. That extortion is what they were
That was
trying
a
to
great one. Yeah, that one, I loved that one. He was awesome. He goes in my top, top 10 of this month, like biggest jerks, like sweet.
Right.
Exactly, but nothing ever happened.
Yeah. They did move out based on based on the fact that you told us that we were no longer representing them and that they had to talk to each other. And once the seller knew he had to talk to the buyer, he says, oh, never mind, we're not coming back to Temecula.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
They wanted us to be the intermediary while they were tenant landlords.
Look, most human beings are reasonable, or we'd never get anything done. And most sellers want to leave. They just need the spot for a bit and then they move on. Most people, and then there's always that bad element, but nothing you can do about it. They're just out there,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we didn't take up too much of your day. Appreciate.
I'll see you guys next time.
Yes. We'll have you back in a couple of months. Thanks so much.
Summer.
All right, so I'm going to move on with our normal meeting today, my normal agenda, and I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes. So let me change view so I'm not staring at myself there. I want to see everybody else's faces out there. All right, so let's start from the top. Tell me something good. What good happened this week?
Escrow yesterday.
Escrow, yay.
For a buyer.
Oh, I know. It's so bizarre that we're like, it's not bizarre. I'm super happy that we have so many listings and the listings are going into escrow, but we have very few buyers going into escrow right now. I know it's a tough market.
And I don't want you to be surprised that he's having trouble finding insurance considering the name of the street he's on is Burnt Valley.
Burnt Valley.
But it's a cool dome house out in Anza. That's my
I think we
Adam's twin brother and his wife are looking to buy.
awesome. Is that Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, is Thomas helping him with that?
Yeah.
Right on. Is Thomas on here? No, Thomas is not on here.
And they waived his appraisal.
There he is. He's right there.
Oh, hey, Thomas.
Waived their appraisal. So that was a nice saving.
Are you hearing all this? Thomas, you're muted.
I'm here.
There.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute myself and I'm like bouncing between two calls too. Good morning, guys.
Yeah, we're super excited that you're helping Adrian's son buy a house.
Yes, we've been kind of going through this.
And we could
Yes,
hear your other. We could hear your other Zoom.
Yeah, I was trying to mute and move away. That being said, yes, we are helping Adrian's son. Very, very grateful to get a deal from the Temecula office to get things kind of kicking things off. I do have a few things that I'm working on from some of the different offices, but this deal is just, it's one of those deals that really not a whole lot can go wrong. And it's a great opportunity to show what Prosperity can do, how quickly we can do it, how well of an experience we're going to provide for Ian, and hopefully give you guys some extra benefit and advantage when you guys are introducing Prosperity to the conversation. So you guys have that much more confidence when you're having the conversation. I don't know if you guys caught my previous part of my conversation, but we have been reduced now to just myself. Gary has chosen to take a different opportunity. So it'll be myself covering the 4 offices now. That being said, I will continue to update you guys with my whereabouts, where I'll be. My commitment, when I tell you guys I'm going to be there, I will be there. And if you guys need anything, like I always say, if you need to loop me in a different day, or you see a time that I'm not going to be there, but you need me, just reach out to me and let me know, and I'll make it happen for you guys.
So,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
just make sure to
You're
tell
more
you
than
that,
welcome.
Thomas, we appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks for sticking.
Okay, what other good news? Kim?
My kids closed on their house and moved it out.
Kids closed, escrow moved in. We love our family.
It is 0.5 gallons per minute. There is water down on the street, and we got a credit.
Oh, for the second.
They want to do it. You know, we'll see. Nobody's lived in the house for 5 years, so we'll see if that's going to be enough for them. We talked, we've had so many people out about different things. Just talked to, maybe putting another storage tank in and having that work, or we got enough credit to put water from the street to the house.
That's great. What other good news? Anybody out there on TV land have any good news they want to share? All right. I have some good news I want to share. Let me share my screen real quick. I want to share this. All right. So can you guys see this? This is April's numbers. I've got both offices here. So these are the top agents for the month of April, year to date. So congratulations to everybody, Jill, Kim, Erica, Linda, Pam. Pam won for the contest last month. Hey, Pam only had 2 tickets in there. So you guys, again, better get those in. John, Marianne, Dawn, Christina, Donna, and then Gail, Veronica, Creighton and Hayes team. And in Menifee, top 10, we've got Joe, Lori, Chris, Emily, Jeannie, Jan, Teresa, Suzanne, Mary, Katie, and then the Gibson team. So congratulations to all of you so far. These top 10s are on the VAC. So if you want to brag about yourself, you can just download them right from the VAC. You could search, but they're in the resource center under corporate documents, essentially. So who has, let me go back to the Cabo stuff. So we only have, let me stop sharing. We only have like a week or so left to do May. So if you guys are not filling out, it's hard to see this, filling out your Cabo sheets, go grab one. They're all over the offices, in both offices. And then I want them turned in the next day. So June 1st, please, so that we can get all the numbers into Mark and to Diane so that they can do the drawings. And like I said, if you had like in April, something that like wasn't 5 where you get another ticket, just put that like, extra points on here so that we can see, get you your actual tickets. So all the points add together for the total amount of tickets. Tickets equals into the drawings, and you don't have to be the top listing agent to win. There's lots of things that you can do. Take a listing, submit a loan app with Prosperity, close that listing that you took, utilize legendary escrow, put a coming soon in the VAC, and then lots of one-pointer activities, including coming to the meeting. So all of you get 1 point today. Thank you for coming. So that's my rule. It's not on the list. I'm saying that because Deborah's watching me. Who's got new listings they want to share? You got to speak up so everybody could hear.
Finally, the one I have on paper is going to be activated. I'm meeting the lady today. We have a photographer booked and it'll be live on Saturday.
Nice, congratulations. And where's that at again?
Winchester, 2,300 square feet, 4 bedrooms plus a bonus room. The price will be determined today, but I'm thinking we list it right under 6 and see what happens.
Nice. Is Darlene out there watching us? Darlene, I see your listing here.
Yes, I'm here.
Tell us about your listing.
My listing is coming up this Thursday, tomorrow. It is a condominium, 14, just roughly 1,500 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. We have it in Murrieta and it's beautifully upgraded.
Oops, sorry,
Uh,
I lost it. It won't show the picture, so I'll just let you talk about it.
Oh.
I see the HOA is 185.
185, which is one of the lowest within the communities when it comes to condominiums. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, approximately 1,500 square feet. And it's just 509.
Oh, and are you holding open house this weekend?
Yes, I will be. I'm going to be updating MLS and adding the pictures today.
Cool. All right, if anybody has listings that they want held open, tell me and I'll text everybody for the opportunities if you don't want to do it yourself. All right, so Ethereum. Robert or Bob, I'm not sure. I know this has got to be Menifee. Nope. Donna, is Donna on here?
Yes.
All right. Oh, okay, go ahead, Donna.
So this house is in Fallbrook. It's a 2-story, 4-bedroom plus a bonus room, 2.5 bath, 2,414 square feet, built in 2007. It's in Lake Rancho Viejo. It is a pool home. It is going live on Friday. And open house on Saturday and Sunday. Open house on Saturday from 12 to 3 and on Sunday 11 to 2. It has low HOAs, only like $79 a month. And there's a lot of walking paths, hiking trails, playgrounds in the area, and it's a cul-de-sac home. So it's my sister's home and we're looking to sell it quick.
Awesome, that's a nice one. And let's see, this one's been on the market 1 day, Amy? Or Chris Lamry? Right.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, so
Okay,
my
good.
latest listing on Potrero, this is a very cute little double wide, does not have the wheels. You probably don't understand that joke, but the people in my office do, since I am the wheel
We
king.
do.
Oh, word gets around. Okay. So 2 bedroom, 2 bath, just about 1,100 square feet. It is in a 55 plus HOA, Cottonwood Estates. Only $50 a year though. So it's one of these HOAs where there's no amenities. They just keep, the 55 plus for the neighborhood. And this is one that I've got a little investor friend who I kind of helped collect over the years, and now he's selling them off. And he always gets them super clean and immaculate before he lists them. So he's done some work on this one to make sure that it's primo ready to go. Permanent foundation is already installed on it, so we'll qualify for financing. And I anticipate, at the price, $215 sounds like a screaming deal. Probably won't last very long. So if anybody has a senior buyer out there, let me know and I can give you the instructions to get in there.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's do one more. Sarah Lee, I saw you out there. You want to talk about this listing on Painted Rock? Sarah Lee, we can't hear you if you're out there.
See, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, it's on Painted Rock. I should have a key within a week. The tenant is out of town. I leased it to them. It's a beautiful house in Winchester. It'll come on. It's on the market because she has had to show it as on the market to help her daughter buy a house in North Carolina. But we will be able to show it next week. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, huge, great room with a fireplace, great kitchen, a real gourmet kitchen, and it's priced at $710.
Nice.
And I will be putting hopefully a lockbox on next week when the tenant gets back.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
And I'm getting another one probably the end of this week in Harveston. It's about 3,600 square feet, 4 bedrooms. It could be 5, has a gorgeous spa in the yard in immaculate condition, and that's going to be priced about 910,000.
Wow. Very good.
And that should, and then I have I have some more, but these are the two that are coming up right now.
All right, let's do one more because I don't think we've pitched this one yet.
Okay.
Gail, since you're here.
Okay, this is in wine country. It's
Just gonna get the
6.2
photos to go.
acres, and the main house has 4 bedrooms, but has a additional, like it could be a 5th bedroom. But right now they use it as a bedroom, and it's the area above the garage. It's nice. It's all been redone, and it's 4 bathrooms, and then it has right below the house there. There's another pad, an RV or trailer that has septic attached. It's attached to septic and has water and electric. And then down, even further down from that, is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath guest house that they've been using as an Airbnb. So
Right.
altogether, it's 7 bedrooms altogether on there. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a huge property.
Are we
And then
gonna
on the other
caravan
side of
that?
the house, they sloped it.
Oh, they
And
did.
I mean, well, the slope there, they already raked it where they get it ready for vineyards and things like that. So it's possible.
That's very cool. Are we going to get to caravan that? Okay, darn.
How much is it? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's 2,000,009.
2,009,995. All right, so let's talk about the market real quick and the updates for the Temecula Valley, the 6 cities in the Temecula Valley. We have in the last 7 days, 235 new active listings. That's up from last week. We have 271 that went into escrow. So a little bit outpacing a little bit of the listings there. Sold, 213 sold last week. In all of the Temecula Valley, we have 758 actives. And that's up for the 7th week in a row. So that's good. And we were kind of feeling it because I can see the listing boards and both offices are filling up. In the city of Temecula only, we have 188 listings. The lowest price point is $535, which is really high, I feel like. So in all of Riverside County, 3,283 listings that are active or coming soon. And that's up 233 from last week when we talked. So just a couple of updates. I'm trying to make this as quick as I can. I want to remind you guys about legal fees, your favorite time of the year. It's coming up. You should be getting your invoices. I know those Berkshire agents that you should be getting your invoices every month, but it will actually come due in June. Tarbell grandfathered agents, you probably want to get with Brandon this month and go ahead and get those paid. And Shauna stepped away from her desk.
She's in
So talk with your BTAs, because if you do have something in escrow right now, you can charge your legal fees to a closing that you have open right now. And they just got that word from Janet in corporate today. So check with Casey or Shauna on that. There you are. I just said it for you. About the legal fees. Also, I wanted to remind, I've said this in Temecula, but I'm saying it in Menifee now. I didn't mention it with Darren on the phone, but we've got, a lot of people, we've got arguments about ORIA offers actually shown where they presented, et cetera. So I've asked Shauna and Casey on listing files to add a line item for rejected offers. And I want to see that acknowledgement from the seller that it was actually presented. So please do that. If you don't see it in your file, like as a required item, then just talk to your BTA and they'll add that on there. Also, with regards to the buyer sides that you don't get accepted, we do have an email address. I'll email it out to you to remind you where to send those so that they land in Sky Slope, and then you don't have to worry about holding on to them. They'll be in a safe place. Lastly, and this
Counter offers to all your offers, does that cover that?
counter offers to all your,
If you think you're a seller, you countered all the offers, does that cover not having to put in a rejection? Like, you've obviously presented it.
yes. If you countered all of the offers that you received,
then that shows proof that you obviously presented it. Yes, that's totally fine. Thanks. That's a good thought. Memorial Day is coming up. It's probably a little too late to get your flags ordered for that, but it's just on the cusp of being almost too late for 4th of July. So if you guys are thinking about farming with your flags, get those ordered right away. I would suggest grouping up together and putting in a joint order so that you can avoid some charges for the shipping fees. And then I want to talk about our regional meetings. We want to make them more dynamic for you guys. So we are only going to do them now on a quarterly basis. So there is not one next week. It won't be till July, and we'll let you know who the speaker is on that. And just events coming up real quick. Tomorrow, the Hemet Valley edition of the Breakfast with the City Managers. If you haven't RSVP'd, it's probably too late for that. We'll be having office meetings, regular office meetings next week. And next Thursday, we're doing a 1031 training class. It will be at 10 o'clock. It will be on Zoom. Orange Coast Title is providing the presentation on that. So we'll be Zooming it in both offices. And that's all I got for today. Anybody have any other announcements that they want to share with the group?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I just had, we had a phone call from somebody and I didn't know if anybody does commercial.
Nope.
Okay.
But we can get you somebody who does commercial.
Well, that's what I told her, that I'd try to find somebody, yeah, that would in the company, but I can.
I'll get someone to you.
Okay.
Okay, what's the date of it? June 8th, she should come up that.
So you guys in Menifee, I could hear talking, but I can't understand you if you're talking to us.
We were talking about the grand opening ribbon cutting for June 8th.
Yes, thank you. It's on my list and I didn't even say it.
It's okay.
So everybody, June 8th is the grand opening for the Menifee office. What time is it at? 1
o'clock.
1 o'clock. And there's going to be food and all sorts and a ribbon cutting and everything. And it would be really great if we could have all the offices go, and because they take a picture, to have all these people there. So please put that on your calendar to try to go there. I would appreciate it. And I know the Menifee agents would love it too. And you guys just have to see, it's a beautiful building. So
Is everybody yelling at you?
no, it's by Sprouts. If you know where Sprouts is on Newport Road now. Anyway, what else? Anything else?
I used Rachel Ford and her team for the last 3 days.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And then that other offers that may have come in, she sent me a little note about that. So I forwarded those to her, on the fly. I needed a couple of forms done up, but she can get in there and take care of them.
We're really lucky that Rachel's such a great TC in our offices. I know that the Menifee office uses her too. And if you're not using a TC, that's like the first step towards, having an assistant, because that frees up your time for you to be prospecting and maybe farming or doing other things or going on vacation without worry. So consider using the TC if you feel like you're overwhelmed with your paperwork. But some of us nerds like Shannon likes to do her own paperwork. So, but when I go on vacation, it might be nice to do it. So
It was really nice to just be on vacation and negotiated the deal and then decided on the final one with my parents. And just said, maybe this first deal I done it, how it's gonna go. And by the time I got up in the morning, the script had been open. All the time for me. It was just
that's nice. Thank you so much. That's a nice testimonial. All right, you guys. Well, that's it for today. I will see you all in the offices as I go back and forth. But if you need me, feel free to reach out to me. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.